Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Trevor Mazarura, Director of Analytics here at Carnegie. Really excited today to be talking to you about UTMs. So what we're going to cover today is just an introductory level of UTMs and how powerful they can be if used and set up correctly. A lot of people shy away from using UTMs because of the misconception that they're very hard to use and difficult to understand. But we're going to dispel that myth today and make sure that you leave here feeling very comfortable to use UTMs and harness all the power they can provide. So before we go into details, maybe let's take it from the top. So I'm going to describe my immigration story from in a sense of a UTM. So I'm from Zimbabwe and I came to the US. So one area that the UTM asks is, where are you coming from? So in this case, source. My source would be Zimbabwe. So I came to the US from Zimbabwe. And then how did I get to the US? I got to the US via plane. So my medium will be airplane. How is the traffic getting there? And then campaign, why are you here? In my case, I came here for university. So my campaign will be university. So if I was to walk into your school lobby, you would have the opportunity to ask me these questions if you don't have any information about me. But in a web setting, this is very difficult or maybe not even feasible. So in that sense, we rely on UTMs to provide answers to these questions. With UTMs, you can provide a remarkably detailed picture of where your users are coming from the campaigns that are driving to your website. So with that said, let's go into the agenda today, what we're going to cover. So one, we'll look at the history of UTMs, and then we'll look at how to set up UTMs and best practices for setting up UTMs and how to track and confirm that they're firing correctly. We're going to show you a really quick and easy way to do this. That way you test them before you deploy them onto your advertising platform. And then some common problems and how we can avoid those. And then tracking and reporting on results. You can spend the time setting up these UTMs, but the power really comes into how you track and report on these results. And we'll show you how to do that within Google Analytics. And then also we'll share with you a custom URL builder, and we'll give some reasons why our team prefers to use a custom builder versus the ones that are provided for free online. So UTM stands for Urchin Tracking Module. This was developed by a company called Urchin Software Corporation, which was acquired by Google in 2005. This really set the foundation for Google Analytics. So what are UTMs? So UTMs are essentially pieces of parameters that are added to the end of the URL. So you may have seen, so in this case, we'll use a UTM example of College Express, but you may have seen other URLs where it is a URL there, and then it has pieces of information added to it. So anything that has a UTM underscore source, that means, or anything essentially with UTM underscore, that just means that that's a UTM parameter. So with the UTM parameters, there's three mandatory parameters that Google recommends. So essentially what these parameters are doing is just showing you where the traffic from your campaign, which campaigns are driving traffic to your website. And with this information, you can then start to understand which traffic sources are more valuable or which traffic sources are not really sending enough traffic to your website. So maybe you will stop investing in those traffic sources or investing in those campaigns. So the mandatory parameters are the source, which is where's the traffic coming from. So in the case of College Express here, the traffic is coming from Facebook. And then medium, how did the traffic get there? This is a PPC, so someone clicked on a PPC ad and then they were driven to the College Express website. And what is a campaign? What was the campaign that the PPC was about? That's scholarships. So why is the traffic here? This person came to the website, or these people came to the website because they wanted to know more, find out more information about scholarships. So then we have two other areas or two other parameters that are not mandatory. So we won't touch upon those because as you get more comfortable with UTMs, then you can start to explore those and get more detailed or granular information about your UTMs, or at least your campaigns. So with that said, there are three areas that Google, three traffic sources that Google identifies on its own without UTM parameters. So one being organic. This just means someone came from a search engine, for example, Google or Bing. So they search for your website, they search for your school, and then they got there via that. And then referral, this just means that someone came from a website. So they were on a website and then they were driven to your to your university's website. And then we have direct and none. This just means that Google's not sure where that traffic came from. Maybe someone saved a bookmark to a page on your page on your website, or maybe they typed your university's URL into their browser and then they came from there. So within Google Analytics, you will be able to see Google. So for example, here we see Google Organic. Again, that just means that someone Googled and then they came to your website organically. And then direct and none, as we've touched upon that just means Google's not sure where that traffic came from. And then scholarships.com referral, that just means that someone was on that website and then they were referred to your university's website. So setting up UTMs. So we're going to quickly go through this as far as how to do this. So there's two options. One, you can use a pre-built UTM builder, and then we'll show you how to do that. So to get there, the one that we'll focus on is Google's URL builder. So you could Google that and then navigate to the page where you'll fill out a form, and then that'll generate a URL that you can paste onto your advertising platform. And then we also have the custom tagging document, which is our custom URL builder. We'll share with you that and the advantages of doing that over the pre-built UTM builders. So here we will go through Google's URL builder. So as we mentioned, if you Google that, then you can navigate to this URL builder, and then you can start filling it out. So first you want to fill out the landing page, or at least the page that you want the campaign to drive traffic to. So here we have collegeexpress.com reg/sign up. And then in this case, we're going to use source as Facebook. So you'd fill out the Facebook source there. And then medium will be PPC. And then again, the same one that we looked at earlier, which is a scholarship. And so while you're filling that out, Google is generating a URL. So once you've populated those three mandatory fields, you can copy this URL and then paste it in your advertising platform. So very simple to use that. And then so we'll just quickly go through some of the platforms that you can paste this URL. So a lot of the advertising platforms are expecting you to be using UTMs. So they'll be expecting you to have this URL and paste it. So examples of those platforms will be Instagram, YouTube, mail. So with mail, that could be email, but also what we're starting to see is some universities are sending mail with a QR code. So that code would drive someone to a landing page. So that could be electronic and then also snail mail. And then we have LinkedIn, and then Twitter, and there's TikTok, and as we mentioned, Facebook, which was the example that we used with College Express. So UTM best practices, there's some guidelines that we recommend that you just follow. That way your data is coming in cleaner, and then it's easier to analyze. So we recommend selecting upper or lowercase and then sticking to it. The reason being is that UTM codes are case sensitive. So for example, if you have a source as Carnegie, and in one instance you use a capital letter C and everything else lowercase, and then in one instance you use everything lowercase, those will be treated as two different traffic sources just because of the case sensitivity. So you just want to make sure that you stick to one. We as a team, our analytics team, or internally, we like to use lower cases. So whatever works for your team, just pick it and then stick to it. And then keep your names short but descriptive. So descriptive enough and short enough that your team understands what it is. So one option that you could do is if there's short names, you could also have a cheat sheet where your team can reference. So for example, here we have MA versus using the whole Massachusetts. So just as long as your team understands what those short descriptive names are. And then make your URLs consistent, clean, and easy to read. One, it's easier for your analysts to analyze, and keeping everything consistent. Just make sure that your data is coming in cleaner. And then keep a list of all your UTMs, and similar to the make your URLs consistent. Our custom UTM builder will be that one place where you can go back to reference historical links that have been set up. That way you consistently staying with the same naming convention, and then your team can go back and reference how other UTMs have been set up. And then parameters should clearly state what you're tracking. So as a team, come together and then ensure that everyone is on board and understands exactly what you're tracking. And then UTM parameters should not have spaces. Instead, use some of these. And then if you wanted to, the other option would be to use the underscore, but also if you use a percentage in 20, that will ensure that Google Analytics understands that there's a space there, and then it will treat it as such. So now we're going to go into testing your UTMs, and then one way will be the URL destination. So as we can see here, we have two URLs, one with UTMs and then one without. So the one with UTMs and the one without should really load the same page. So one quick test that you could do is load a page with just a page without the UTMs, and then next load the same page with the UTMs on. Both pages should load, and the pages should be exactly the same. If the one with the UTMs doesn't load for some reason, then you likely have done something wrong with the UTM. So one thing to look at is over here. So after the regular URL without UTMs, you have this question mark, and then followed by the UTM underscore. So in this case, source. The order doesn't really matter, but as a team, we like to just keep it source, medium, and then a campaign, and then the other two parameters that we've talked about, just because we want to look at it as an overarching umbrella and then drilling down. So again, just ensuring that, and then just going back to look that you do have that question mark, and then you do have the equals after the UTM, for example, medium here, we have this equals PPC, and then same here, and then you have that and then UTM underscore campaign equals, and then the name of the parameter. So continue with the testing, that simple, really quick way to test these, to test your parameters before you put them on the advertising platform. So Google's real-time reports is a great way to, again, another step of testing. So if you navigate to the URL with the UTM, and then you keep it in the browser, and then you open up your Google Analytics and you navigate to real-time reports, what you'll see is select the location that you're in. In this instance, we select in the United States, and then select the city that you're in. Here we've highlighted New York City. I'm sure Boston people will be upset since I live in Massachusetts. Yeah, but for this example, we'll use New York. And then here, once you drill down on that page, you can see one, that means that it's recognizing that from that location, I'm the only one that's on that page. So with universities, the traffic is not really a huge volume. So it's very unlikely that you're going to have someone on the same page in the same city at the same time as you. So that way, if it loads and you can see yourself, it means that it's working fine. Google is tracking you. One thing that may happen is that if it doesn't load, maybe you check to make sure that you have Google Analytics implemented on that page. And then the other thing is, if there's multiple users at the same time, you could quickly test to see if you drop off, does that number drop off by one? Just refresh Google Analytics, and then you can repeat that test by going back in. just to make sure that it is counting you and it is seeing you on that page. So now we'll go into some common UTM problems. And again, a lot of these can be avoided by just following the best practices. So not testing before implementing. As comfortable as you can be with UTMs, we recommend that you just continue to test, just avoid that human error. Everyone makes mistakes. So let's just, we recommend just testing those by those two quick, simple ways that we showed. And then not following a consistent naming convention. That could be lowercase, or if you name something scholarship versus scholarships, that might be the same campaign, but they'll be treated differently. So just follow a consistent naming convention. And then confusing the purpose of parameters. Source, where's the traffic coming from? Medium, how did the traffic get there? And then campaign, why is the traffic there? So just not mixing up those. That way it's easier to, everyone knows what the parameter means, and then easier for your analyst to understand the data and makes quicker analysis. And then not using the mandatory source parameters. We just recommend that you follow Google's 3 recommended, and then setting medium to PPC for non-paid. So just ensuring that if it is a non-paid, it is non-paid. If it is PPC, it is PPC. And then incorrect use of the and, equals, and the question mark and other symbols. As we've shown earlier, the question mark comes right after the URL, and then the UTM underscore. And then after every parameter, you just have that and ensuring that that equals comes after the UTM underscore medium, for example. The equals the name of where how that traffic got there. So not making everything lowercase, uppercase, we've discussed that. And then leaving spaces between words. Again, just try not to leave any spaces because UTMs don't like that. So now with everything done, how do we report? Where do you find this data? Setting up everything is half the battle. Now we need to analyze this data and make sure that we know where to find it. So if you navigate to Google Analytics in the acquisition reports, you'll see campaigns, and then we'll select here all campaigns, and then you'll see all the campaigns that have the UTMs. So for example, here we see the college.com as a campaign name at the top. So here's where you can see all the campaigns that you have. And then also here, if you wanted to focus on just the source, if you wanted to focus on medium, and then here you can see the source and the medium together. So we won't go too deep into analyzing this data, but at least now you know how to navigate and find your campaign information. So next, as we talked about earlier, this is a custom UTM builder. So the reason we like this is, again, a one-stop place for your team to come back and see how the UTMs have been set in the past, and then also to make sure that everyone's being consistent. And then you can customize this based on your university's needs, and just ensuring that all following the best practices as you're filling this out. And so with this example, as we look here, we have the tactic, and then the tactic will be Facebook. And then over here, we have the URL. This is where the campaign is sending traffic to. And here, UTM source in this first line, we have Facebook, PPC, scholarships. This is the one that we looked at for College Express. So as you're filling this out, this is automatically being generated. And then you just copy this and then you paste it on your advertising platform. So over here, we have AdWords. So the Google platforms, these we won't go too much into detail, but we put them here so that as your team gets comfortable with using the dynamic URLs, then you can start to use this portion of the UTM builder. But again, our team will be happy to share this with you. And then, as always, if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at the Carnegie Analytics team. With that said, thank you very much, and we look forward to talking to you all again on other topics. Thank you.